Well, well, well. Look who it is. Anyway, as the title says, I literally wasted 3 days troubleshooting fake code. Not fake news, fake code. Absolutely frustrating and embarrassing at the same time. So, anyway, one of my team members was on vacation, and they had a script that they had written which was designed to generate some kind of report. Well, the report had an issue. So whoever the report's supposed to go to notified me that there was some issue with one of the fields. So one of the fields was expected to only have certain types of values. So let's say it's supposed to have either 3 or 4, up or down, color or no color, whatever it is. There's expected values. But occasionally there would be a value that would show up that's not expected. And the question is, where is this value coming from? So I didn't know anything about this script. This is all new to me, but I was able to locate the script that was supposed to generate the report that they were looking for. And once I located the script, I looked through the code and I basically searched for the field name in question. So there was a certain field that had the bogus values, right? So logically I looked for that field name in the code, and I found a couple areas where it was, and using some context clues based on what else the code was doing around that time, I was able to find what I thought to be the most relevant section of the code. So the part of the code that had the field in question was talking about love it. Anyway, was talking about it had this case statement. So it's a Python script, by the way. So I haven't done any case in a while, but it didn't look right. It looked a little off. Couldn't tell you why, but it was a little off. I figured I was just a little bit rusty and I forgot the syntax. So it's my fault, right? There's nothing weird about the code. It's you. You don't understand the code. Whatever. Then I see some other things on there. There was the end of the section of the code ended in something as let's say color. Something as color. And I'm like, as color? This looks like something I would see in a SQL query. Why would it be in a Python script? Instead of evaluating it, is it because it's using some kind of module that basically generates SQL queries and sends them out or something like that? So I'm literally looking at some kind of SQL query in the code, but I'm like, no, this is not. This is the code that I'm looking at. It is what it is. It's not referencing this stuff within some kind of module. Like you see the module name there, and then inside of the block you see it's referencing this stuff. No, it's straight up a case statement that's ending in this as whatever. And the case statement itself also looks kind of bizarre. The logic looks kind of bizarre. Just doesn't really make sense. But I'm sure that I figured out the problem. Okay, doesn't look right to me, but based on the problem, this logic clearly is the issue. It's failing somehow, and that's why we're getting this bogus value. So it was testing for two different things. So case this, something. Case that, something else, right? But then on the top line, there was also a case there, but it didn't really seem to specify like what's the result. Case that what? It doesn't really, it just looked incomplete to me. The other two I could easily see because the other two case statements, the other two case statements were saying what they would produce. So case of this, black. Case of that, white. It was like that, right? So that made sense. But then the other one, it just seemed like it was just saying case. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. But still, it's like it's mentioning the field. I see the two values we expect, and then I see this other statement. So there's a third option. So in the file, we're getting three values. Two that we expect, and a third that we don't. I'm looking at a case statement that has three options. Two of the case statements are giving the options that we expect. And the third one, I'm not sure what it's doing, but logically, it's got to be that one just by deduction, right? So I go and I respond, and I'm proud of myself. I thought I figured it out. I'm like, hey guys, there's something wrong with this case statement, blah, blah, blah. I believe what's happening, and I had a theory. I went extrapolated from that. So I said, I don't see in this case statement a setting of the bad value. I only see setting of the good values. But clearly, somehow, running through this code is resulting in the third value. So it's got to be the third statement. So I said, I believe what's happening is, and I also looked at the source data. So the source data actually had the bad value. So the code was evaluating the source data, and based on what it sees, it was setting one good value or one bad value. And where one of those two values was not chosen, you have another value, which just so happened to be in the source data itself. So I just extrapolated logically that what it was doing is when one condition was met, it took one value. When another condition was met, it did the other value. And then if none of them were met, then it just passes on the original value from the source data. And I just made a wrong turn. Yep, made a wrong turn. That was my theory anyway. So this was like 3 days off and on, going back and forth. Obviously not the only thing that I've been working on, but essentially this was like a 3-day thing. On the third day, I was actually looking at the raw code without any help at all from anything. But the third day I decided to turn on, I was using Notepad++. I decided to turn on the context highlighting, where it'll actually recognize the code and different constructs and things like that. So like you begin a quote, you end a quote, certain key commands and things like that. So when I turned it on, all of a sudden, this code was like over 1,000 lines, which I was surprised by. Based on what it was doing, it seems like a lot of lines of code to do something really simple, just to generate a report. So I looked at it, and as soon as I turned on the highlighting, I just saw hundreds and hundreds of lines go gray. So I'm like, why are all these lines gray? What is that about? That makes no sense. I mean, gray is like stuff that's commented, right? Wait a minute. So I start scrolling because this looks like highlighting. I mean, like a comment, right? So let's go up to the top to where the color ends and the gray text begins. That will be the boundary where whatever I'm looking at is set. So I go to the top of the gray text, and I see the traditional or classic comment initiation, the Python comment initiation. So basically, the code that I was looking at was not real code. I mean, it was real code, but from the Python perspective, it was within a comment, so it was irrelevant. The Python interpreter was not looking at the stuff that I was looking at. So once I realized that, then I went back to my previous thoughts from the day before, and I thought about how I thought some of this kind of looks like SQL. And then right away I combined the two. So you got hundreds of lines of code, which looks suspicious, kind of like Python, some of it, but then some of it just looks weird. Like a wildcard was like a percent, string percent. And I'm just like, what is this about? So anyway, so I say, does this look like SQL code? Because it's SQL code. Is this like a stored procedure that's been pasted into the actual Python script as a comment? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Someone had pasted an entire stored procedure or SQL code as a comment into a Python script. The Python code itself was very brief. Might have been 20 lines, 30 lines. But when you add the comments to the code itself, you're well over 1,000. So pretty much you're talking about 5% code and 95% comment. So I was wasting my time evaluating logic that was not even relevant. The problem, I'm pretty sure, stemmed from the actual SQL code that existed in the SQL universe, which was producing the source data that the Python code was actually looking at. So you have SQL code that runs, and it has its logic, the case statement that we saw in there that is processed, and based on that, it does inserts and writes these records to the database. Then the Python code, all that's doing is it's going to the database and grabbing that information, grabbing those values, and then to a report, some kind of CSV that could be delivered to whoever the report is for. It's real simple. Producing the headers and then inserting all these rows of data. So logically, the SQL code itself had the issue, and it was therefore storing bad data, which the innocent Python script was simply passing it along. So ultimately, the DBA or whoever wrote that code would need to correct their logic, and which is probably that case statement that we saw. But bottom line is, I wasted all that time looking at stuff that had nothing to do with the problem. Yeah. So, take from that what you will. Entertainment value, or educational value, whatever it may be. But that is my story, and wow, to say the least. Wow. Shout out to Igor and all of my subscribers. I know I haven't done any videos in a while. I've been super busy troubleshooting comment sections. Well, troubleshooting comments in somebody else's code. Yeah. Now I've been very busy, but I'm gonna try to start making more content. As interesting things come up like this, or things that I learn new, just whatever new things that I learned I want to share with you guys. I'll post it up. New stories, career stuff. I definitely want to talk to you guys. Some of you that are new programmers, we got to talk about money. If you're coming from a situation where you weren't making a lot of money before, you're young or whatever, and now you got your first dev job and you got the money coming in, we got to talk about what to do and what not to do. Like I just had a talk with my cousin's son, who just started full-time at Microsoft. I'm so proud. Just finished an internship, and now he's full-time at Microsoft. And the money is just compared to what he was making before. So I'd have a good little talk with him about money management. And I want to share stuff with you guys as well. Anyway, this is a computer programming university where learning is always fun. And the first step is to always smile. Salut! Wie Dobre utro. Bonjour. Bonjour. Bonne nuit. And now I gotta somehow stop this live stream while I'm driving without causing an accident. Going faster is not helping. All right, guys, be safe. Hit the like button, subscribe. Until the next episode, I'm out.